I have more videos on my caseworker's nasty comments towards me in support of my neighbor and her false allegations regarding the fact that she managed to convince her that I was banging on their child's bedroom wall. I don't know how long they have all believed this for. This appears to be in part caused by their disability and mental health discrimination and their beliefs that I am mentally ill. Apparently being mentally ill makes you do things like this. And apparently if you are accused of it, secret trials happen without your involvement. It is no surprise that I have in late March 2021 just had the case for me as a victim closed with no finding of my neighbors at fault, when at least 6 months ago, at least 3 caseworkers and 1 manager, the one who closed the case, were talking nasty about me behind my back before they had even contacted me and with little to no evidence. Let alone evidence of frequent banging. They also closed the case nearly a year ago and tried to say the banging the neighbor was making was normal living noises before ever hearing it or my complaints about it. So it's no surprise they reconcluded it after I said I would sue them, so they decided to pretend they would look into my complaints of banging by the neighbor. It's also interesting that I am being told you can't report DIY, but my neighbor has reported me only for that. That is, if she hasn't fabricated any media of it. She has only got audio clips of obvious DIY noises, one of which was 6 months apart. Yet the council are pursuing an ASBO against me for this. In part because they never bothered to ask me if I was banging or why, or recognize that if I am hammering halfway through the year once, it just might be DIY and not me attacking a 1-year-old baby to intentionally wake him up. Which coincidentally was an allegation made about me after I had reported the neighbor 100 times and produced clear audio of loud music inside my house and their garden. And audio of the neighbor threatening to beat me up, and sent video of the neighbor laughing at me when I said I was sick, meaning physically, but she responded laughing implying I was mentally ill. Saying quote, "Oh, we know that." The council totally ignored this video and allowed the neighbor to keep taunting me and calling my complaints mentally ill, which I also reported in December 2020, but the council ignored and continued to ignore it and me until they banned me from reporting her again in March 2021. And everyone knows that my neighbor only started to bang after my music reports on them. Both the neighbor and council are relying on smears I am mentally ill to excuse the neighbor's banging, with the neighbor outright accusing me of making it up and blaming pipes before being forced to admit they were dropping stuff. But why would the council noise team take action against my neighbor making fun of me for supposedly being mentally ill, when they were doing the exact same thing to me themselves? In fact, they refused to open any case against my neighbor because of their beliefs that I am mentally ill. And they admitted to this in writing not long after I contacted the council, back in 2020. They cut me off after this, and then when I showed proof the neighbor threatened to beat me up, they claimed they would start investigating her, but cut me off again at the end of March 2021. The neighbors even took their role-playing so far that they got a noise machine urgently fitted, when the council were not actually installing them due to the coronavirus lockdown. We think that they got it put in so urgently and got special treatment, in part if not entirely due to their vicious lies that I was targeting their baby with banging. Even though this allegation makes no sense at all. Not to mention that the police should have been doing the investigation then. Just like they should be investigating the fact that the neighbors are banging on purpose to wake me up. The difference is I actually have evidence of it and they don't. Their noise machine showed no results, of course. And I thought that was the end of it. But no. I did 5 minutes of DIY just recently, and as I said yet again, the council are pursuing this as me hammering on a wall to target her now 1.5-year-old baby. I don't know what they think mental illness is, but clearly they think it means that random women go around banging on children's walls to wake them. And that because someone has smeared them with this term, that they are liars and guilty of everything they are accused of, no matter how absurd and illogical. Clearly the mentally ill person is the one assuming or lying that I am doing this to a child. I actually had to point out that I do not actually know where the baby sleeps. Of course I would not know that. And I should not need to point out that I could have in fact been banging right above the baby's head in their cot, without knowing. If I was putting a picture up on the wall or something. These are things I am allowed to do. And the council to allow my neighbor's extremely vicious lies to get so far and for this to get so out of control as far as defaming me is completely inexcusable and deeply traumatic. To be labeled as someone targeting a child who on one of their false allegations I know was only around 7 months old, is absolutely abominable and my neighbor should get jail time. She is trying to worsen her false allegations by using her poor baby, all the while making extreme bangs within her own house to wake me. As well as her own baby who is getting caught up in her retaliation and harassment of me for reporting her music. And it seems like maybe she is being given special treatment and believed and getting aggressive pursuit of me by the council by name-dropping that she has a baby. I know that she brings it up a lot. This in itself should have been a warning sign to the council and police, amongst everything else. One time the neighbor even hilariously phrased it to me as the following, and I quote, "Banging on my son's bedroom wall. Who isn't even a year old. This woman is a complete psychopath." What is interesting is that the woman calls me a psychopath or delusional almost every time she speaks to me. Or speaks about me, as I've overheard her speaking about me. She's certainly been able to convince the council of this. Although given their random problem with me I don't think she had to try very hard to get him to reach this vicious conclusion. In fact I am pretty sure the council already thought this themselves. And I am sure that the council or police shared the smears from my medical files and now council files, for my neighbor to use against me. They match up perfectly. I even think the authorities are using my noisy neighbor situation to further their own smears that I am psychotic and delusional and paranoid. Because they tried this when I had complaints about them and an obvious lawsuit. The police have 2 non-existent, yet very serious mental disorders on my police files as something I supposedly have. None of which I actually have a diagnosis of, and one of which has never existed in any textbook. More of this in another video. This file has been split into 2 parts due to size limitations. This is part 2 of 2.